Did the Clippers just get caught paying Kawhi Leonard under the table, circumventing the NBA's salary cap? And if they did, what's going to happen? Oh boy, this is a huge mess for the NBA. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. And don't forget to turn on those notifications as well. Good Lord, for an early September story, this is an absolute bombshell. This is Pablo Torre on the Pablo Torre Finds Out podcast. Take a listen to this. This could be devastating. Here we go.
Is that NBA executives were suspicious of how Steve Ballmer's Clippers landed the most valuable free agent on the market, Kawhi Leonard. That the NBA did not find that Balmer got Kawhi by sweetening their offer. But also that in March 2025, this celebrity-endorsed, multi-billion-dollar, allegedly fraudulent tree brokerage named Aspiration, which promises to clear your conscience and your emissions, they file for bankruptcy. And this is where the clue is. What David's looking at with his glasses on is a bankruptcy filing, and there's a list of creditors. The entities to which Aspiration and all of their alleged fraudulence still owes the most money. And what I noticed is what David is noticing right now, which is that on that list of creditors, up near the top, above the Boston Red Sox, is an LLC. A tiny little company that Aspiration owes $7 million. And that LLC's name, David, is what?
KL2 Aspire LLC.
And what does it list there under manager or member name?
Kawhi Leonard.
Whose NBA jersey number, just to connect all of the dots here, happens to be what?
Number 2.
So then the question is, the Aspire part of KL2 Aspire LLC, right? Because, okay, he's getting all this money, millions of dollars. What I started doing was scour the internet for any mentions of Aspiration. Any appearances, tweets, quotes, Instagram posts, anything by Kawhi Leonard endorsing Aspiration. And this was hard to find, which also might seem weird, right? Because every other celebrity Aspiration gave money to was well known. There was Drake offering a statement to Rolling Stone. There was Doc Rivers, Kawhi's own head coach. Robert Downey Jr. was cutting his commercial. That was the whole point of paying the A-list Avengers. But the grand total number of times that I found Kawhi Leonard ever publicly referencing Aspiration, 0 times.
Right.
Kawhi Leonard mentioned.
Okay, so the implication here is that Kawhi Leonard was getting paid $28 million to promote, to endorse this company, this tree planting company that had a bunch of other celebrities and things that are involved, but he never actually did it. So that certainly raised some eyebrows here. And the implication is that this is all funded, secretly funded, by Steve Ballmer, Clippers owner. If this ends up being accurate, and we're going to get to the circumventing the salary cap part here, this would be fairly unprecedented in terms of what the NBA's response would be. But take a listen to this.
Mentioned Aspiration. And so what I started doing was reaching out to dozens of former Aspiration employees. A grand total of 7 of them ultimately agreed to interviews, which is also how I have exclusively obtained this signed and executed document.
In consideration of the rights and benefits granted to company hereunder, the company will pay KL2, which is Kawhi, $28 million in cash during the term of this agreement. Company will pay KL2 $7 million each year of the term.
That is Kawhi Leonard's autograph. I convinced
4 years, $7 million per year. Holy moly.
One very important person who worked in the finance department of Aspiration to go on tape.
And I didn't so much as discover it as I was told about it.
What was your reaction? What were you told?
My reaction was, what the fuck? And I was told, like, oh, these are the major contracts and the major players you really need to be aware of. And we went through a litany of, really, really top tier name contracts. And then, oh, by the way, we also have a marketing deal with Kawhi Leonard, a $28 million organic marketing sponsorship deal with Kawhi. And that if I had any questions about it, essentially don't because it was to circumvent the salary cap. LOL. There was lots of LOL when things were shared.
Did you ever see proof of Kawhi Leonard marketing or endorsing aspiration in any way?
Never, not once. The single largest payment to an individual for marketing that aspiration ever made has completely evaded all press. It's honestly incredible. Nothing.
Okay. So again, here the implication is that Kawhi Leonard was getting paid all this money to endorse a company that he never actually endorsed, or at least that they can't find any record of him actually endorsing that. It didn't get any press or anything like that. The Clippers have said that obviously this is not true, that they did not circumvent the salary cap. This is not accurate. And if that's the case, if they're right that this is not true, then nothing's going to happen. But what if it is? Let's get to that next. You've probably heard of the Sleeper app at this point, but here's a little secret. It's more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. This year, millions of users are enjoying playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but it also offers live stats, including real-time updates and visualization on all stats, a great news feed. I use this all the time. You get lightning-fast updates on your favorite players and teams, and a real-time chat where you can engage with other users about individual plays and performances during the NFL and NBA season. So you can download the #1 sports app today. Experience it for yourself. Sleeper, a great presenting sponsor here for the Basketball Bulletin. You can see I even made some picks on the Sleeper Picks platform here. I went with Dak Prescott to go over half a passing yard. That's kind of a free square. Love those little promos that they do. And then I've got Saquon Barkley, more than 96.5 rushing yards against the Cowboys. Oof, I don't know about that defense. And Kyron Williams, I believe he will get one into the end zone. So I've got more on him there. If you guys want to check it out, you can get a $100 deposit match up to $100 when you use our code Bulletin. Use the link in the description down below. Okay, so what happens if this turns out to be true? Again, the Clippers have denied it, and if they're right, if that's true, if this is, there was a mistake, this allegation is proven to be false, then that's it. Then the Clippers are fine. They signed Kawhi Leonard, everything was on the up and up, and we're all good, right? If that's the case. But what if it turns out to be true? Now, the NBA, they're going to have to investigate. Obviously, the NBA would have to investigate this situation, but the closest thing that I could think of that is similar to this, and this is not nearly as bad, it was the Minnesota Timberwolves with Joe Smith. They signed Joe Smith years ago to a below market value contract. In fact, they were going to sign him to 3 below market value contracts with the idea of getting his bird rights, with the wink, wink promise that once we've got your bird rights, we'll go way over the cap and sign you to a bigger deal, circumventing the salary cap. They promised, and this was actually documentation came out on this, and that's how they wound up getting caught in part. But a signed Smith to a free agent contract in 1999 with a secret promise of $86 million over 7 years after that. You can't do that. You can't sign a guy to a contract and say, we promise officially on paper to give you a bigger contract down the road. That's salary cap circumvention. That's you are signing an agreement with a player to give him money that you can't currently give him at the time to give it to him later. That's not allowed in the NBA. The punishment for the Wolves at the time when that became public was taking away their next 5 first-round picks and finding them $3.5 million, plus David Stern voided Smith's contract, who was the commissioner at the time, voided Joe Smith's contract for the season and the previous 2 seasons, taking away his bird rights that would have allowed the Wolves to re-sign him. I mean, this was a big deal. In fact, the Wolves owner at the time, Glenn Taylor, was forced to be away from the team. Same thing with GM Kevin McHale. Like, it ended up being a big deal. And that was just on a wink-wink deal. That was not a, hey, we actually are giving you money under the table situation. 5 first-round picks. And now we've got this allegation that the Clippers were paying Kawhi under the table potentially to get him to sign there in free agency as a way to maybe sweeten the pot. Again, Pablo mentioned at the beginning, that the NBA didn't find that the Clippers had done anything wrong, that they had paid him under the table, or that they had done anything to sweeten the pot for Kawhi beyond what is allowed under the NBA's collective bargaining agreement to pay him a max salary contract. That said, if this turns out to be true, we can only imagine, based on how heavy-handed the punishment was in the Joe Smith deal, what kind of penalties the Clippers would be facing here. They could be astronomical. I mean, Kawhi Leonard could get removed from the Clippers roster. Like, that could be what we're talking about here. The Clippers could face significant draft pick penalties here. There are all kinds of things. Could Steve Ballmer be forced away from the team if it's found that he was the one who was behind all of this? If this was all at his direction? This could be an absolutely devastating bombshell here for the Clippers. Obviously, Adam Silver is not David Stern, and Adam Silver will have to come up with his own punishment, all of that. And this is not anything that's happening like tomorrow, right? I mean, the NBA is going to have to investigate. They're going to have to do their due diligence, all of that. As I'm recording this, the NBA is yet to release a statement about this. We'll see what they have to say. But this could wind up being a situation that we're referencing for years, for decades to come, if this turns out to be true. You know, you look at the new collective bargaining agreement and the things that it put in place, the one that came in a couple of years ago, in order to try to hit owners, not in the wallet, but in their ability to build out the roster. And that is because there are certain owners in this league who would have the ability to simply outspend everyone else. They didn't want a team having the ability to just buy their way to a championship. And to give you an idea of how much money Steve Ballmer has, we look at the collective bargaining agreement attacked, rather than the wallet, the ability to functionally build out the team. There are significant roster building penalties if a team is above that second tier apron. Why? Because you can fine Steve Ballmer all you want. You can add luxury taxes to Steve Ballmer all you want, and he's not even going to feel it, right? It's like his financial wealth is such that it would be like a mosquito biting the Incredible Hulk. Like, he's not going to notice it. He's not going to feel a few extra million in luxury tax penalties the way some other owners might. Steve Ballmer's worth $128.2 billion. The next most, $30 billion. That's the next most. 21 billion after that. 19 billion. So you've got many times more money in the hands of Steve Ballmer than in other NBA ownership groups. We go down very quickly from there. Let me look at this. Tillman Fertitta's at 10.7 billion. I mean, his wealth even is dwarfed by the amount of money Steve Ballmer has. And so the fear was the NBA that teams would be able to buy their way to a championship, would be able to just spend. And the part of the collective bargaining agreement, there's a lot that's involved in there, but part of it is to diminish the impact of having an owner that simply has more money than everybody else, to diminish the impact of a Steve Ballmer. But if owners are finding ways to get around the CBA, that's where suddenly having that wealth is a big advantage again, and is a big problem for the NBA, beyond just the salary cap circumvention stuff, which obviously is a big problem for the league. But at a conceptual level, the NBA's newer collective bargaining agreement really tried to level the playing field between all of these owners to a degree. It has, again, a lot of other goals that it really set forth here, and a lot of it is to limit spending and all of that. But it was a shift away from financial penalties from spending too much on your roster towards actual roster building penalties, because they realized that targeting Steve Ballmer's wallet isn't going to do them any good. That's not actually going to dissuade him from doing anything. But if owners are allowed to find ways around that CBA, and again, the allegations are coming from the prior CBA, but if owners are able to find ways around that, then suddenly you've got a big advantage, or a bigger advantage. There's always going to be some kind of advantage to having more money, but a bigger advantage to having an owner with deep pockets. So again, my hope is that this turns out to all be false, because this could be I mean, scandalous to an incredibly high degree here for the NBA and for the Clippers. My hope is that all of this turns out to be false. The Clippers did everything on the up and up, and off we go. If it turns out this is proven true, the Clippers, Steve Ballmer, Kawhi Leonard, I mean, we could see penalties unlike anything we've ever seen before in this situation. Now, it also begs the question, is Steve Ballmer the only one, if this is proven to be true, is Steve Ballmer the only one who was doing stuff like this? Or was he just the one that got caught? Is this happening in other teams? And might this set off an investigation elsewhere as well? Something to keep in mind. But everybody, give me your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think? If this is proven to be true, what would the penalties look like for the Clippers, for Steve Ballmer, for Kawhi Leonard? Don't forget to subscribe right here to the channel. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.